Okay.
That's fine.
So, last time, let me transition for you to the strategic map that we have going on here. So check it out. Um, now let me actually share it. Here we go. All right. So this is our strategic situation, as you can see. So I marked down where the action that we had last time took place. So that is way up here on. It's actually part of the northern coach route that actually comes from kind of along the Red River route. So there are like obviously multiple different coach routes that go kind of east to west through Texas. You have kind of you've captured sort of a caravanserai, a stagecoach stop along the northern route. Um, so that's where you were on August 28th. That's where you still are for now. So you're basically taking the next couple of days to kind of secure the facility and rest your men because you were a forward sort of vanguard sort of scout detachment from the main brigade. So you're waiting for the rest of the brigade to show up and the rest of the army to show up. So you've got basically a couple of days to chill here as long as you don't get attacked or anything like that. But you can see I've also marked down, obviously, the multiple coach routes that you are sort of, at this point, you're kind of sitting sort of on the northern part. You can kind of get down to where everything else is. I apologize for the Discord sharing resolution. It's not very good. It doesn't let me.
It's plenty readable for our
Um,
purposes.
but you'll also notice that I've marked all of the points where there are manufacturing facilities in Texas. So obviously, this will kind of affect your decisions about how you proceed through Texas, especially if you can catch or find Price and where his men are going. And obviously, again, sort of looking at some of the strategic advantages of each route, the northern coach route or the Red River route, you can immediately get up to it through a coach route, and that's probably going to take you through easier country to move through. Whereas the southern routes are both kind of they go around a lot of mountains, and so that presents a lot of opportunity for Confederates and even Texas militia and Texas sort of state volunteer regiments and whatnot that are still kind of active in the area to intercept you and delay you and block you and force you to take a lot of casualties as you're advancing. So it's something to keep in mind. But for now, you are again at this coach stop that you captured last time, and you have, you know, some time to rest. So we'll get into that in a moment. But for now, I want to talk a little bit about the rules changes that we've made. So you remember, again, a changed speed to labor. And in order to, if you want to go faster when you're doing something, you're just going to have to spend more stamina on your units. That's basically how it's going to be. You're also going to basically make you'll make a maneuver check or whatever, and then depending on how well you do, you can again choose how you're manifesting that maneuver check. And again, so we're all on the same page. The labor skill is going to be used for things like, for instance, securing and fortifying a coach stop that you've just captured. So it's things like gathering trees and lumber, digging ditches. It's for entrenching artillery. It's for moving artillery and things like that. So there's probably, if you want to maybe spend some time to fortify this, you'll mostly be rolling labor in order to do it. And
So I am thinking that might affect the First California.
yes. And so basically,
That
with the changes in mind, I want you each to let's take a couple minutes and go through your regiments and kind of shift some points around because I don't want to force you to keep your the thing that you made before this rule was completely changed. So yeah, if we want to go through your regiments and change them, let's do that.
ex post facto. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as a maneuver and labor swap for me.
Okay.
Because maneuver was going to be my men in their intricate poses.
Right. Of course.
They will still have. It just
Yeah.
takes them a while.
Right.
Whereas I had speed set at Hessian.
Right. So this is also something to consider, right? Because a lot of the Confederate forces are bolstered by enslaved labor forces, so their labor skills will be a little higher. They're going to get a bump if they have any laborers present, right? However, if you manage to, capture or emancipate them and they volunteer to stick around and do work for you, then you guys will get bumps to your labor forces as well. Or if you have like a really shitty brigadier general or something who decides to basically impress them after they've been captured or recaptured or emancipated, then that might be a thing too. So you should know going forward that the Confederates are usually going to have a slightly higher labor thing than normal, just because they, again, rely on impressed, coerced labor forces to do it rather than just their own soldiers. So, if you want to go ahead and swap those points, that's totally cool. And if the 1st California Volunteer Cavalry would also like to make any different choices, you can do that now too. You're muted, Keith.
I just swapped my numbers as well. I'm maneuver 3 and labor 2 now.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Cavalry, we're not really great at building entrenchments.
Yeah. But again, like, this stuff will be like, let's say you overrun an artillery position or something like that. Like, you'll be rolling labor to see if you can hitch those guns up to horses and like drag them back to your lines or something like that. So
the only acceptable thing in that is to spike them by pointing the 2 guns at each other.
Yes.
That method of spiking.
Yes. Okay, so the only other the other change I've made now is I have rules to cover forming detachments, and I'll probably actually add some of this stuff to the unit sheet. So within this week, I'll probably send you guys a new unit sheet to fill out. But basically, so a detachment. Okay, if you guys are not in charge, if you've got an NPC doing something, so normally you add your skills to the thing that your unit is doing, right? So if you're making a cohesion check and you're just trying to get everybody together to form up for a charge or something, you roll the attribute of cohesion and then you add your particular character's like leadership check or whatever against it, right? You add the skill to it. So that works with any kind of unit thing, but if your character isn't doing it, obviously another character is. And so each unit will now have 3 leadership positions. There's the commander, which is you guys. You have an adjutant or like a quartermaster, and they handle logistical stuff. So if you want to check to see if like where are we going to camp tonight, you'll probably roll your adjutant's roll to make sure that they find a spot to camp and it's nice and there's no snakes there, or you're not camping in the middle of a swamp, something like that, right?
Watch out for snakes.
Yeah. Colonel, we've set up camp, but there are snakes in all the men's boots.
We set up camp in Rattle Gulch.
Yeah, it's the Texan dream, right? A snake in every boot. And then, so the third, so there's, again, 3 levels. So there's the commander, adjutant, and then the last is the subaltern. The subaltern is basically junior officers or NCOs. And Keith, your guys are actually going to have a nice bonus for the subaltern level because you put in, you have a trait that means that your kind of lower tier men, your subalterns, are a little bit more empowered, let's say. So all of them are going to roll, your NPC commander and adjutant are going to roll, they have a skill of 2 in 1 specialty if they're NPCs, right? So like, if you're quartermaster, this is something for you guys to sort of empower again and kind of role play your regiment too. So like, obviously you have picked your adjutant, you have picked the guy who's in charge of the logistical side of maintaining your regiment, so they will have 1 specialty that, consider it like a character skill, right? So like if you want, like Keith, because you're cavalry, if you want your adjutant to be really, really good at finding fresh water or fodder for your horses, then anytime you make your adjutant roll, they're going to roll at a skill of 2 for that particular thing. But for every other thing that falls in the purview of adjutant, they're going to roll at a skill of 1. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then your subalterns roll at the same level, but they're rolling 5 dice if they have to do anything independently. So if they're making a character check, they roll at 5 dice. But because subalterns are normally going to be involved with what I would call detachment rules, they're going to operate slightly differently. So subalterns basically are, their only kind of purview is to lead detachments. So a detachment is any particular thing that you want your unit to do that you don't need the entire unit to do. So an example we had from last time was saying that like Regis's guys have some sharpshooters or picked marksmen among the regiment, and if you want to detach them and have them perform a special skill like shoot at an artillery emplacement or something to keep the gunners' heads down, you will form off a detachment by spending 1 point of your unit's manpower, and that creates the detachment. The detachment rolls at the subaltern's NPC's skill, unless you can also personally command the detachment if you want to. So that'll be basically every detachment will roll at a 5 plus 1, unless you have anything else to add to it. So in this case, the Volunteer Cavalry have sort of empowered subalterns. That's one of the traits that they picked. So you'll actually be rolling at a 2. You'll have a skill of 2 rather than a skill of 1. But yeah, otherwise they're basically kind of like a fire and forget sort of a thing. Like you form a detachment, you tell it what to do. They're going to do that one thing until they're brought back into the unit and their manpower point returns to the thing, or they get destroyed, or they get routed, or their position gets overrun, or something like that. So sort of normal stuff that detachments will do is like picket duty. Your cavalry might want to do scouting or foraging. You'll form a detachment to do that rather than have your entire unit do it. When you want to roll for like, okay, well, what do I know about the enemy position? We can basically say, well, you formed a detachment, you send it out, they're going to roll. Whatever they roll is going to bring it back and tell you any information that they have. Does that all make sense? Okay. All right. If you have any questions about it as we play, let me know, and we'll kind of go over things earlier. And I figure these first few, like early ones, are going to be very experimental, so we'll kind of figure out what's going on. Okay. Any other questions? All right.
That's me.
Cool. So yeah, you two have basically 2 days at this. Well, hopefully, if the army actually continues on the way that it should be going along the pace it was. You were again sent forward as kind of a vanguard. You've captured this caravan stop, stagecoach stop, and you are camped there for the next couple of nights at least. So obviously you know that you are now in a place where there are Confederate forces, even if they're very small. You know that within probably a day or so, any local Confederate forces are going to know that you're there because you kind of let the garrison of the stagecoach stop leave. So you also have probably to take anything in the area that might be useful for the Army or for your regiments as a whole to sort of canvass it, collect it, and organize it and get it ready to be useful for the Army. You also have time to rest, maybe time to scout. You did emancipate some laborers if you want to question them and see what they might know about Confederate forces in the area or anything of local interest that they might want to know. So yeah, you've got kind of a lot to do if you want to. You also, by the way, captured a gun. You captured it. It's just a 6-pounder. Just, Kurt and I are very familiar with the Model 1841 6-pound field gun. Nice brass gun.
That's a very small gun, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a very, very, very average field gun.
You're going to shoot a ball the size of a grapefruit,
Yeah.
cut a man in half.
Yeah. It's definitely nothing really, really super powerful, but it's a gun. It's a gun that you can, like, a single detachment of either of your regiments can operate.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little.
So, yeah.
So we can. It's not like a 20-pounder Parrot or something.
Right.
Yeah, I think the first thing, if you would concur, that I'd be interested in doing is getting that gun pointed the other way.
Yes. Yeah.
Towards the nearest town and stagecoach stop coming from the east.
Okay. Battle map transition. That looks like it's working. And let me share it for you. Okay. So here you go. So that's where you're at. This is a new map, obviously. So I've marked north up there on the north side. And I will just, you'll notice I've got a couple of new toys. So your 2 regiments obviously, are basically here inside caravan stop. And I'm going to use this blue marker here to represent the cannon, which is, your cannon over there. Cannon, again, was on basically like the northwest side of the caravan stop. So you're going to have to, again, like you said, move it to its other side. So, in order to do that, whichever regiment wants to do it, form a detachment, and then, or you can just roll labor on your regiment. We'll have all 1,776 men working to move the gun and to make its emplacement. But I would say basically roll labor. So this is not only to physically move the gun, but also to basically create an embrasure and create a sort of firing platform for it, so that it can actually be moved and fired and all that somewhat easily. So you also might notice, Andrew, that we have in the Discord channel a thing said roll your dice here. If you want to roll straight on the server, you can. Otherwise, you can just use dice or a dice app or whatever you got.
I will try that. So, all right. So I've got a labor of 4.
Okay. So you want to put in exclamation point with no space afterward. You say roll, then a space, then 4, and then I would add any, and then another space is for your flat, your skill successes. So if you're rolling your skill, like you're standing there, maybe you've got your band or your somebody playing on the fife, the song that you play whenever they have to do work or whatever. That'll add to it. So if you've got like a leadership check or something for your character, you can add
I think I will add my marksman skill in that, like, I took a look around and found what's going to probably be the best firing solution area.
Okay, so that's exclamation point, roll, all one, space, 4, space, your marksman skill, which I believe is 2.
It's a 1.
It's a 1, okay.
So exclamation point, roll, 4, space, and then a 1?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
perfect.
We got
All
2
right.
successes, which does a sad face happen every time?
The sad face comes up only when you roll less than a 4. If you roll a 4, it's just a flat face. If you roll higher than that, it starts getting happier.
It's a nice touch.
It is a nice touch, yeah. All right, so with 2 successes, basically, this is going to take a long time. So essentially, you've got your men working. You captured this place in sort of like the evening, and so they want to sit down and have supper. They want to explore this place and see if they can find any leftover booze, anything that they might be able to scrounge from around the area. And instead, you've got all of them working to build this gun embrasure. So I'm going to say it's just going to take basically until like 10 p.m. tonight, until basically retreat is sounded. And they're going to be working the whole time.
Get up the stuff well.
Colonel Twig, one question for you as we work at this.
Yes.
Since we are building some of our own fortifications, I don't know what they called this godforsaken hellhole, but we should rename it something patriotic.
Does it already have a name on the map? Because then it will just
No.
be higher ups.
It does not. It's just, like westernmost stagecoach stop.
You have a significantly greater flair for the dramatic than I do.
Well, I'm going to suggest we name this Fort Leland Stanford in honor of our brave governor.
Sure. Hopefully he never sees.
I will christen the Fort Leland Stanford.
Yeah.
And if there are any libraries, or if there's a bookshelf in like the office of the stagecoach shop, I want at least one soldier to write diversively that it's Stanford University. Like on the CO's shelf above his desk.
All right, so that is you are laboring away. Your men are beavering away, moving the gun, and by about 10 o'clock or so this evening, you have obviously shifted the battery to. Well, question: do you want it on the northern side or do you want it on the southern side of the road, or does it matter?
Well, looking at the map, it looks like the road kind of curves off to the northeast.
Yes.
So I think that's an appropriate place for the emplacement.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, so okay, you've got that set up. In the meantime, Colonel Twig, what have your men been up to?
We are out in the field all day. We're going to find any local population centers. We're going to be checking for any enemy movement. I want to know where those guys who put on parole went, because we could pretty easily catch them because we're on horses.
Yeah.
If they broke up or if they lied to us and went to join another army.
Right. Okay, so I would basically say
Reconnaissance for the whole day.
yes. All right.
Ooh, I know.
If you're gonna devote all of your men to it,
Yes.
yeah, I would say that's a labor rather than
Okay.
like cohesion or maneuver or anything like that. So go ahead and yeah, roll up on labor. Because this is mostly just like your men doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Working a lot.
And hopefully most of them will probably be able to filter back again, probably before midnight or so.
I'll open it in a second on button. Hang on.
Yeah.
All right, so it's exclamation point roll. I have.
And remember, you can shift your manpower points up into labor if you like.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them all in there. So it's gonna be roll 5.
Okay. And then, did you add any skill?
No.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
didn't see skill to add really, unless I add my generalship or something.
yeah, no, your generalship would work.
Okay, well then I have a net 3 successes.
Okay. Yeah, so with 3, all right, by about midnight, most of your men come back. Most of them.
Uh-oh.
You have probably a couple of detachments that actually went out to kind of following the main road, have not reported back yet.
Okay.
So basically to your east and south, I'll mark this on the map, sort of scout reports this way, nothing. You basically get like, there's just nothing there. They come back, big fat 0, no Confederate presence. It's just dust. It just stretches off into basically like, you know, the Texas desert, basically, for miles and miles and miles until you hit the southern coach roads that cut through the state. So they basically went out straight for hours, spotted fucking nothing but cactuses, turned around and came back, and they're fine. So your scout report from the guys who were kind of sending up this way, again, have not returned.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna go chasing after them in the middle of the night, so we'll get on it.
So
Colonel
this
Twig,
is...
did your paper collar get tighter? Ooh.
So I'm going to take these guys off.
I didn't just eat my bacon.
That's the infantry regiment, and I'm going to represent your 3 dots are the cavalry guys that have reported back.
Okay.
So you have basically 2 manpower out in the sticks right now.
Okay.
So kind of make sure to adjust that on your sheet.
Hi.
But yeah. Alrighty. So that's sort of night number 1. So each of your regiments are actually going to be your stamina is going to come down by 3 points each because you've both done some stuff.
So, she just wants my bacon.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
The stamina is going down?
Yes, because you did a lot of work. We're going to roll for resting right now, but the cumulative effect of doing all that work all day has gotten your stamina down by 3 points.
Okay. Have you ever seen videos of the Leland Stanford Jr. University Marching Band?
No.
There is a very large space whenever they say it. They are a very offensive marching band who got banned from the state of Oregon.
What?
When doing a show in Oregon, they made their Stanford was playing, Oregon State or something, and they did a show themed around the extinction of the spotted owl in Oregon,
Oh my God.
mocking the state of Oregon. They also got a reprimand, and I believe were briefly banned from Utah for doing a show in Salt Lake City. They said something like, they had the band playing, and they said, "There's nothing quite as sacred as love between a man and his wife, and his other wife, and his other wife, and his other wife." And the crowd in Utah was boo. They don't even really march. They kind of like amble into shapes and don't really have uniforms and play really funky music.
Yeah.
And their mascot is the tree, the big pine tree from Stanford. And every year they make a new one, and they're just goofy, like paper mache trees.
Yeah.
See, I thought this was gonna suck. Like it was gonna be like, oh, they're all part of the clan. These kids rule. This is the coolest marching band I have heard of in a long time.
They're my high school band teacher hated them. Like they're
Yeah.
giving marching bands a bad name. I'm like, it seemed pretty rad to me.
It sounds like it's a movie from 1987 about a marching band.
Right.
And every time they get announced, it's time to welcome the Leland Stanford Jr. University Marching Band. I don't know why exactly they do that.
Yeah.
It's in the style guide.
Okay, so each of you should roll a rest. So this is going to be a cohesion roll, and then any of your leadership skills can apply to this. So this is to again see how well you all recover from what was a pretty long day. I'm actually going to say, Keith, you're going to roll at a -1 d10 just because all of your men are not back yet.
All right, and I am going to use my discerning patriotic skill to rally the men around the sign we've hand painted that says Leland Stanford, and everyone's a little kind of proud of their work to see their little fort.
Of course. It's 3. Don't put the plus on the second one. Yeah.
I got a flat face this time. That's an upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with a 4, your men actually get some pretty good rest. They're too tired to even try to break into like the cellar of this place to find the booze. So they don't even get drunk. They are actually like quite well behaved, and they all go to sleep. Not so well on the cavalry. It's kind of a long, pensive night, and I'm going to say that you're actually going to keep your stamina is going to be it's going to remain at 7 in the morning.
So what is happening with my stamina?
Your stamina is going to go back up to 10. They get a nice rest. I don't think you took any wounds or anything from the last one, or any damage to your unit from anything because you didn't actually fight. So you are back up to more or less full strength.
We're happy to siege out Alamo 2 Union Boogaloo.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is actually kind of what it looks like. It's sort of like a small compound of adobe walls. There's a couple of huts on the inside. There is like one probably extremely overused now, like shitter in the corner, and that's it. So like your men have kind of thrown up some awnings and everything, and they're basically stretching themselves out on blankets under the very, very, very cold Texas night. Any of you who aren't from Texas, it actually got up to like the 90s during the day, and it's down to like 40 degrees or so at night. So it is very cold.
This is garbage terrain and weather to soldier in.
Yes, and like the cavalry, especially like part of the reason that you had a bad night is you've had to camp outside. So this you're basically you put your horses kind of under an outdoor awning that just has like firewood, and your men are sleeping sort of under the stars. So you don't have like any protection from the elements or anything like that. It's a pretty cruddy night for the cavalry. But bugle calls in the morning. Wake up, ponies. It's time to get up. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it strikes me as something that maybe Colonel Regis might be interested in. Is his regiment actually does still use the Revolutionary War fife calls rather than the bugle calls, the newfangled bugle.
Well, I mean, I'd say that, but I do also really like the idea of that our regiment has our unique bugle call
Right, of course.
to
Right.
alert everyone
Right.
that these calls are for the 1st California.
Yeah.
Yeah, every one of our bugle calls begins with bum bum ba-dum bum, and then we know that it's
Yeah.
for our men.
It's for cash. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it is.
Sounds out over the battlefield like a clarion call.
Right. So I want you, Twigs, to roll a detachment. This is so 5d10 plus 2. You're basically rolling as one of your detachments, or your, let's say, the remaining detachments that are out there. This is a roll for them.
5.
Sweet. All right. So pretty early in the morning, just about as you're gazing into the glorious sunrise of the western Texas, you're looking at it. It's like, oh,
Thanks. Don't look right at it.
yeah.
I was getting a dew point and everything fucking sucks.
Yeah. So out of the rising sun, you see.
Trying to get, oh, I got it. I got it. Fucking coffee hound.
Oh my god. She's only like 2.
It's one of those lids where it's like, oh, it's saving stuff so you don't have a straw. It's just got like the hole. So
Yeah.
as soon as she picked it, it's gonna be bad. That's why I had to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so yeah, with a 5, early in the morning, you see a dust cloud approaching, and these are the remainder of your men. These are another, 100 or so cavalry scouts that are coming at a pretty good clip, and they are waving at a distance, like sort of very crude semaphore flags. You've got obviously, and the semaphore reads "enemy sighted," and then after that, it just sort of obviously indicated kind of along the road that they are charging back up.
All right, we sound arms.
Yeah. Okay.
Colonel Regis can find out we're sounding arms when
Of course.
it
Yeah.
goes off.
Right.
I'm not gonna go.
Right. So yeah, they have they come tearing back. Right. So I'm gonna your cavalry is at full strength now. You are still going to be operating at until you spend up like a manpower or cohesion point or something like that for your stamina. You're still going to be operating today at a 7. That's your max until you spend an attribute to spend it back up. So your men are tired. You have like a good chunk of them, like 3 or 2/5 of them or so, are exhausted because they did not sleep. And one of your officers, one of your subalterns, his name is Gawain Lacotte. So Gawain Lacotte, originally from Louisiana, originally from New Orleans, moved to California and joined up because he's such a patriot. Speaks with a very French accent, but he gives you a report that there are 2 Confederate militia regiments that are pounding up the road to come back out to this thing. There are infantry. They have skirmishers that have screened them, and Lacotte believes that they actually have at least 1 small battery of artillery as well. They're probably about 3 hours away.
So the guys that are exhausted that came in under Lecoq, I want them to just, they're going to be a reserve inside the fort. They're going to hang out, and if there's an emergency, they'll respond, but otherwise they're not going to respond.
Okay.
And take that information and I convey it directly to Captain Regis.
Okay.
Grab all the lieutenants.
Remember to put those guys at the back door, so that way when the militia tries to jam its way into the gate,
right,
this cavalry can go around.
Yeah.
There you go.
Get them at the back.
Right.
It's what I learned back at the Total War Academy, which is a place in California, of course. A primer school for officers interested in becoming soldiers. Yes, would you be interested in taking class from the Total War Academy?
You had a guest lecturer, a guy named, some German named von Clausewitz came in and gave a long lecture about the idea of total war.
He did it completely in German, though. None of us understood.
Right, yeah, everybody was what?
Oh, California will be amazed at such a victory.
Yeah, all right, so I'm just going to jot down a couple notes on the back here.
I set out to grab all the officers and senior NCOs and grab Regis, and we all get together.
Okay. Alrighty. So, do you want to discuss strategy or anything before? You've got again. This is probably 7, little after 7 in the morning. And if Lecotte is right, then you've got about 3 hours or so to prepare. If you want to, you can try to do another rest to see if you can get the men that just came back a couple hours rest, and then they can kind of rejoin in full strength your regiment. Otherwise, again, you can leave them as a reserve, and that'll be a detachment under Lecotte, and you can give them orders to do whatever as it comes to, and then you'll just be operating with your sort of lesser manpower pool for the duration of the battle.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
I want Lecoq to be operating independently. I just tell him, like, he's been with us a while and he knows what he's doing. So you're
Sure.
going to act on your best judgment with the objective of defending the fort and preventing the infantry from getting flanked.
Okay. Sounds
Now,
good.
I know if we can provide some kind of delaying action here at Fort Leland Stanford, we know we've got quite a few reserves on their way in.
Mm-hmm.
Would we expect them sometime in the next day, 24 hours? How far behind do we think they were when we were detached?
So, if they're moving well, and the weather has cooperated, the last couple days hasn't been bad, as long as they were kind of moving consistently, there's a chance they could be here by evening. That's probably best case scenario, though. At most, you expect them maybe early tomorrow morning. That's probably about it. If they get delayed by anything, it might not be until, 48 hours or so from now. So you've got that window of maybe later tonight, maybe later tomorrow night, maybe the next day. But
All right. So, Cash, I'm going to send out a detachment to the main column to let them know we're in contact and give them the report the last day.
Sure. Okay. All right.
Speed up. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So they are on their way. And actually, just for now, I'm not going to tell you what the difficulty is, but I'd like you to roll another detachment thing just for that. So obviously, this is at a 5 plus 2 because again, you've got independent operating. It's a point of manpower. Make sure
5
you do
success.
that. Okay, cool. That's pretty
Oh,
good.
I did not
So,
have one power. Hang on.
No. I mean that you subtracted a.
Oh, detachment is out.
Yes. So you just subtract 1 point of manpower from your regiment, so they're shooting off to go back up to the north and the west to find the main army and just let them know to fucking hoof it to get back up here.
So right now I would have 1 manpower because I have 1 detachment resting, 1 detachment out.
Yes.
1 detachment.
Correct.
I think with some of my men to prepare for what seems like almost inevitable conflict, I would like to send out a small detachment. Doesn't really particularly matter what skill level, because I just want them to mark off in 50-yard increments with stakes out to about 600 yards.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all just flat prairie, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely just very it. I actually should have. I was looking at Google Maps and kind of just looking at what it looks like. It is flat scrubland. There are patchy. It literally is this is the tumbleweed country, right? It's that. Every single shitty western you've ever seen, where it's just a 4-pole building on a raised a platform, whatever, and there's literally nothing in every single direction. It's just dust. That's where you are right now. So it is super duper flat. There is basically no cover on the approach. These are the only buildings within the entire horizon. And to the southward, you can kind of see the land start rising up, and you can see just over the horizon the peaks of mountains to the south. That's it. That's the country. This is big sky country, very open, flat terrain. So give me a labor roll, Cash, and your men will mark out range cards.
I think I will also add my marksman ability to that. Thinking of it, let's see, that would be a labor of 4.
So the effective firing range of a Sharp's rifle is 500 yards.
Yeah.
This is. I don't think we have a lot to worry about right now, unless they have something that we don't know. She biting you?
Not great. They had 2 successes. I don't know how you screw that up.
Oh, whoops. Shoot.
They just take a long time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Very meticulously. The guy with the tape measure's like, no, that's 558 yards.
I screwed that up, man. Dang. One day I'll get better at marking these maps, but I'm just gonna try to clear it up a little bit.
We'll live.
Yeah. All right.
I think another thing I would like to do is interrogate some of the liberated workers
Uh-huh.
that we have with them and ask them about what kind of artillery the local militia, if they ever, went to a local militia barbecue weekend kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
all right,
that's the kind of stuff they're doing, wasting their time out here in West Texas. Like,
yeah.
Okay, you definitely served lemonade at one of these, right? Like, what kind of guns did they have? What kind of forces are we expecting?
I would say that this is a, you're not rolling for your regiment, you're rolling for your character, so this is a charm roll. See if you can butter these guys up. Obviously, I assume that you have fed them, you've given them rations, they've got facilities to rest in and everything like that. You haven't, locked them up or anything.
We're treating them as good as abolitionists would.
Yeah, yeah. So also, obviously, I've marked up the battle map out to about 1,000 yards, and the 2 sort of enemy regiments up in the corner are just they're not quite there yet. That's just that's the direction they're coming from, and their strength seems to be 2 militia regiments. You don't know exactly how much. Lecoq couldn't quite figure it out because they had their skirmishers screened them pretty effectively. So they couldn't really get a very good look about exactly what their strength was. However, I've got it marked out now to about 1,000 yards, which is right here. This is, again, roughly. So this is mostly theater of the mind, so this isn't going to work out to exactly centimeter by centimeter, anything like that. So just so we're all on the same page.
All right.
But yeah, so that's about 1,000 yards.
I had 5 successes in talking to the emancipated laborers.
Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, we'll say the guy you're talking to is named Alexander. Alexander is sort of kind of come forward as kind of the more assertive of the group, and he is chatting with you about stuff you want to know. So what are you asking about specifically again?
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to know if he's been to any of their militia weekends and what we can expect. Were these soldiers good at marching around? Did they even bother to drill when they're meeting up, or are they just having a party? And what artillery pieces did they have? Did they ever practice with them?
Okay. So he tells you essentially that they actually took their sort of militia gatherings quite seriously, because out here in West Texas, before the war, they were actually most concerned about Comanche and Kiowa raiders and things like that. So they are quite experienced. Quite a lot of them have actually been involved in skirmishes and battles against Comanche raiders and various other things. A lot of them have actually gone on expeditions looking for camps to raid and things like that in the winter. And so they are actually pretty experienced soldiers, if not the best disciplined. But it seems like in the past few months, most of the cavalry strength of West Texas has basically been pulled up and sent east. So they've got mostly infantry that remains, but again, they're quite experienced. As far as artillery goes, they don't have much. At most, they might have some, maybe Napoleons, like 12-pounders or 6-pounders or something like that. And honestly, Alexander can't really say because he was never involved with the artillery and doesn't really know much about how it works or operates. He knows that they're just cannons. He gives you a loose description. They're roughly the size of small field guns, so either 6-pounders or 12-pounders. He's not really sure. They could also be howitzers. He doesn't know the difference.
Okay.
So we're not fitting 2,000 plus men in this fort right now.
Right.
So, Cash, what's your plan? You
Another
think
thing I would like to look,
for a line?
since we didn't really have a ton of time yesterday, I'd like to look to see if there are any supplies in the fort, maybe in the basement. I'm looking for like a cask of whiskey or a barrel of rum,
Okay.
any kind of provisions, especially like libations that might be sitting around that would have been shipped somewhere or another.
Okay. I would say probably, unless you were personally looking, just a detachment could do that pretty well because they'll be rolling at a 5 with one looking for. Yeah, look. You're ordering them to look for booze, so I'm actually going to give you a bonus point because this is every soldier's dream. Yes, sir. I'll go find it right away.
All right, so we're just rolling at a 5.
Yep, you're rolling at a 5 plus 2.
We had 3 successes.
All right, they end up pulling up some like old like tins. It's not even in like barrels. Old tins. It is rum. You know that it's rum, so that's nice. But they are ancient, and they're in these sort of like weirdly unsealed rum tins that you've never seen before, and they look like, well, you might actually have seen them because they look like the kind of like cheap British rum that was imported to like San Francisco during the gold rush. So like this is, you remember drinking this while you're sitting up to your balls in the stream, like, oh right, this is British rum.
The day I was prospecting.
Right.
The one.
Yeah, but you did find some alcohol. It's not much and it's not very high quality.
All right, I would like to tell this same detachment.
Mm-hmm.
I kept this on the hush hush from the other soldiers. There's a lot going on.
Of course.
But I told them, like, all right, you can take one of these bottles to split between this detachment, but I want you to take the rest of them.
Okay.
Perhaps I'll use a pen very quickly to label this Cash Regis's Special Reserve
Okay.
on the paper label. And I want them to go put this at about the 300-yard mark outside the fort, just in a pile.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they're. I also want them to take a table from the adjutant's office in the stagecoach shop, and put it on the table, and go put it at like the 300-yard mark.
Okay.
Outside.
All right. I just put a dot on the map. I'll label it Cash Regis Special Reserve.
I'm thinking like I don't know how much you've ever read about tank warfare in World War I, but one of my favorite tactics of all time was when the British were writing German phrases on the outside of their tanks, just purposely misspelled a little bit, in just to get them like seconds of advantage for some German to be like, what the hell does that say?
I like that.
Huh? They have spelled that wrong. And then, they're just momentarily distracted. Any little bit helps. So, we've got an ill-disciplined force who will perhaps fall for Cash Regis's Special Reserve of liquor just out on the battlefield.
Oh, boy, sir!
Guess what we found?
All right.
I mean, I'm
It's maybe next to, like one shrub.
the one
That they feel like it's behind a shrub, so any of the soldiers coming across it feel like they are slightly concealed from us, but we know it's right there.
Right. Okay.
I mean, ultimately, I'm not too worried because we're regulars and these guys are used to fighting Comanche, not 2,000 infantrymen armed with breech-loading rifles.
Right. I want to note Cash Regis Special Reserve right here. Just so you've got the mental image that you need properly. Okay, so that is, I would say that's probably about all the time that you have to do sort of detached stuff before fighting time, as you're sort of looking over and you can see the dust cloud approaching of this Confederate force that is marching on the fort. I will be right back, real quick, and then we'll get into some more.
He's gone. I'm going to open my military surplus treasure trove that showed up. So I was being a super dork about life because I had nothing else to do. And instead of just reenacting something that existed, I was like, oh, I'm going to reenact the German workers' militia of 1964.
Ooh.
Because, like, I'll be the only guy in 2,000 miles who gives a shit. And I have it was also based off of what gun do I already have, and I have an SKS. So I was like, yeah, they'll do it.
Are you sure you don't want to be a pre-enactor? That's what I'm very interested in being.
That's basically what this is. It's Cold War pre-enacting. So I can go to all the different gun competitions, and in the historical category, I could be like, yeah, I'm the socialist dad's army. Like, their whole thing was you either had to be disabled or over 28 to join. And it's meant to be like they're the military unit that built the Berlin Wall in East Germany.
Heat.
It's got a very rousing patch on it.
Nice.
I'm into it. I like it.
The pants I got are like way too big. Oh, but this fits.
Oh, is this
Very nice.
your East German dad militia LARP?
Yep.
Perfect.
I got pants that were like, what if Arnold Schwarzenegger was a fat guy sized? I gotta figure out what to do with it. I think I'm trying to return those.
Yeah.
Because East German sizes are difficult to figure out in
Yeah.
West American body shapes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you have in order to when you want to bring in your detachments to form back up, it's going to be a cohesion roll. Just FYI. And obviously, if you're not actually reforming and reabsorbing all your detachments, of course, you don't have to do that. There needs to be a detachment of somebody to command the cannon to fire the 6-pounder if you choose to, obviously, and I assume you would, because why not?
Who is likely to have more training on that, the infantryman or the cavalryman?
It's a good question. I mean, I would say in a sort of a meta game sort of a sense, your men will be better at it because your men you have a bonus to detachments because of your independent sergeant's trait.
Okay. Then we shall. Well, the last so one detachment's gone. One detachment. Yes. My detachment will be running the gun.
Okay. All right. So that is 3
so we have
points. Yeah, you have 3 points of manpower that are in detachments right now.
Yeah.
Just to make sure you keep that sort of marked down.
I've got it marked on the sheet.
Okay. Cool.
Do we have enough horses and tack and everything to make this a horse battery or a horse gun if we need to like scoot around really fast?
Not right now, because you spent basically all
it's
night.
in place.
Yeah, you spent all night last night in placing it, and it was basically on a garrison mount, so it doesn't actually have. Yeah, it doesn't have a carriage.
It is staying where it is.
Yes, pretty much. This is a problem that you could solve if you had a day. But as it is right now.
Do you think you're going to leave the defenses of Fort Leland Stanford?
Are you going to fit 2,000 men in this position?
He's only got 1,700, so.
Well, there's like 300 of us, so. Yeah.
So well, in terms of the thing, right? Obviously, again, I'll put this up, but stress again, the map is not to scale, but this is a fairly tight little spot, right? The fort itself is somewhat small, so you can probably fit 500 men on the walls at one time. Giving each other a little bit of elbow room so they can move around and take cover and reload as they need to. So it's fairly small. You can fit pretty much everybody inside, not very comfortably.
They're not fighting.
But based on the fact that this is a fairly small Confederate force, they don't look like they're going to split. As you watch them approach, right? You don't see the dust clouds kind of like moving off to the south or anything like that. So it looks like they're going to try to keep themselves together. So you can essentially kind of park your men if you want to, like sort of in the lee, as it were, of the Confederate force. You can kind of swing them around if you want to on like the western and the southwestern kind of side of the fort, and just kind of get them in shelter if you need to.
So, Cash, this is what I was thinking. Let me hear what you feel. I'll put the men I still have that are combat ready in the fort under the gun. If you could float some of your guys in there as well, and we can use the fort to anchor our left flank, so we'll be facing east. And that way, if they try to wrap around the flank, we can just wrap around the fort with the guys inside. And you form in line to the south. And then just volley the shit out of them.
Definitely work. And we're kind of out of view. They won't know how many. Just the same problem we had of not knowing exactly how many were in the fort itself.
Yeah. Well, I'm relying more on the fact that around 500 yards, your guys are going to start putting 5 rounds a minute out accurately.
Yeah.
Or accurately, regiment of guys in line.
And Cash Regis, of course, is himself an exemplary marksman, and has impressed that on the rest of his men. So they have. Yeah.
Unlike my guys who are like carrying around sawn-offs in their pockets and shit.
What is it in Ultimate General, right? It's like the palmetto flintlock pistol and a saber. No, yeah, I mean, you have Sharps carbines as well.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean,
right.
we're more of a person regiment than...
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you're also sort of disparate right now. Your detachments are...
We are not formed for a charge.
Yeah. So again, you want to have basically like sort of a reserve corps of infantry. Do you want it on the south side of the fort, or like the eastern side, the western side of the fort?
Well, I don't know if we have enough guys. Well, that's up to Cash. He understands the regiment better. Do we have enough? I feel it'd be better just to put everyone in the line and ready to go.
Oh, you want everyone?
Yeah. So we have a bunch of guys occupying the fort.
Mm-hmm.
Mine and maybe like a detachment of the infantry.
Oh, okay. And then just the rest of the infantry regiment out and ready to maneuver,
or at least ready to fire as a unit.
Okay. No, I think because your regiment is probably 300, 400, maybe 500 men. You've got a couple of detachments of a few dozen men each, maybe,
Yeah.
And then, or you've got like 100 down. So you've got 300 or 400 guys that you can comfortably put on the walls with Sharps, and that's fine.
Just my guys.
Yes. There's also a detachment of infantry manning the cannon. Or no, the detachment, it's your guys manning the cannon.
Yeah,
so I would say, if you want to park your men as dismounted cavalry inside the fort to guard the walls, and then keep the entirety of Cash's regiment outside, you can maneuver pretty well that way.
That lets him, show off his stuff.
Yeah. Is that, do you concur with that, Colonel Regis?
I think that will add to confusion of the enemy militia, because they know there was a sizable cavalry force that they just won't see.
That would make me nervous.
That is true. That's a good point. So I'll basically, that's your various. I put your blue dots in there. Manning the fort.
We've given up the ability to use the cavalry on the big open plain, but that's exactly what they'd be expecting us to do.
Yeah. Well, it's also hard. It's hard to support a single unit of cavalry, even against a couple units of infantry. So.
Yeah, we are not Napoleon's Cuirassier. We are not going to be able to charge these guys and run them off.
Says you. Okay.
That's why I have these fancy rifles, Cash.
All right.
So I concur.
Okay. And so your regiment, I will say, is kind of parked, sort of in the lee of the fort, drawn up and ready to maneuver around as you need to. Alrighty. Keith, you said do you have until 2 or a little after?
I got a little after.
Okay.
I'm basically playing until Lawrence Dad shows up.
Okay. Alrighty.
I probably have until about 2.
Okay.
So
All right. We'll try to move this along then. All right. So you can all just see. You can see what's going on. You can look up and watch these Confederate men, march forward. So they are coming in good order. And up on the walls there, Twigs, with the spyglass, you can kind of look at. It looks like both of these regiments are about 500 to 600 men apiece. It looks like, but they're coming in kind of these loose swarms, right? They're sort of they're coming in open order. They've got skirmishers out front and everything like that. But they are marching together, and you can see again behind them, sort of through the dust cloud, they do have a small battery of something. They're gleaming, so they're bronze. You can see that, but what type you're still kind of unsure about as yet. But they are marching up, and they're sort of drawing themselves up at a little over, they're maybe 1,200 yards away or so. So within reach of the cannon, probably not very accurate fire of the cannon, but well within its range. And yeah, that's the situation as it stands. If you want to do anything about that for now.
I think you should draw them in a little bit closer.
Yeah. Are they still advancing at speed, or are they?
They're sort of drawing up and trying to sort of organize, like form up a little bit more properly.
If they're in range, I would open up on them with a gun just to.
Okay.
If we're not hitting them, it'll cause problems with them forming.
Yeah.
I mean, I might wait till they get to within the 1,000-yard range marker.
1,000 yards. Okay, yeah.
And I imagine I'm down, so I want to shout up. Have they seen Cash Regis's special reserve? Look at their officers. Are they looking at it?
I've looked through my spyglass.
They are too far away to have noticed the Cash Regis's special reserve.
Let them get closer.
Yeah.
Let them get closer.
All right, we'll hold fire.
All right, so it takes them maybe another half hour, 40 minutes or so, and you see forming up to their north. They are entrenching very loosely. Entrenching here, the term of the entrenching being that they are basically throwing up some, hey kitty. They are, I want to make sure this gets on the recording though. Look at that kitty. Aw.
The cats look when you pick them up, just so like,
yeah.
Maybe if I go entirely limp, they'll put me down.
So yeah, they are emplacing a battery. So like they're not actually trying to fortify it or anything like that. They're not putting gabions out front. They've relocated some brush and brambles kind of out front. And through your spyglass again, that you can see that most of this work is actually being done by enslaved laborers. So they are moving pretty quickly and entrenching this gun. And it looks like it's an understrength battery. They've got 3 guns. It looks like it's manned by a quite large crew. And so they should be firing pretty efficiently, but they are forming it up right there on their northern side as you watch.
I mean, they're also welcome to take their time, because like the longer they take, the sooner our guys are going to get in contact. Like the main army will arrive.
That's true. So it's probably by the time they actually get that kind of set up and fixed, it's probably about 11 a.m. And that is about the time they commence their bombardment. They start firing.
Can we figure out what they're doing to us now?
Yeah, you'll be able to watch the balls come through the air and be like, oh, I see now. All right, so I'm going to be rolling for the Confederate colonel, who is firing their guns.
We should have put the Cash's liquor reserve out further.
All right. So their first kind of volley comes up, right? And they are firing at your gun. So your gun is entrenched. So in order for the Confederates to hit it, they need to roll at least a 6. So they rolled a 5. So they didn't hit anything. They didn't do any damage, but they are firing quite close to it. The balls. So you see the balls kind of skipping along on the ground. They haven't warmed up yet, so they're not firing at the flattest trajectory they possibly can. But the balls are kind of skipping in and hitting the sort of the walls of your little embrasure that you have hit in the fort. So that's what they seem to be concentrating on is your lone gun. So they haven't done anything. That was kind of their initial volley that they probably fired it, 4, 5, 6 times or so. They're taking their time, warming the guns up, trying to get a bead on everything. But so far, it's been somewhat ineffective, at least. But it is hitting the walls. And you inside the fort, of course, you're kind of watching these skip in. They are 6-pounders, so they're basically the equivalent guns that you have ready to go.
Well, that's not awful then.
Mm-mm. But they're going to give another hour or so of bombardment, so they're going to do the exact same thing.
As long as we can kind of see, could you call back some of men manning the gun? Just like come in out of sight. Don't just stand there.
Yeah, well, we're not going to return fire right now. We're going to base. I'd like to give the impression the guns have been silent.
Okay.
As long as it's not like really effective fire and it's causing problems, we'll just hunker down.
All right. Let's see if the Confederate general is going to sort of take the bait. See what's going to do.
See if you.
Forward. What's that?
I was going to suggest to have one of your men strip down and like throw some straw or a stick in there so you can throw a body over the side of the wall. At 1,000 yards, it'll look real enough.
Cash is out with his men. We're not going to do that. We're going to hide.
All right. So after their sort of second barrage, they're actually going to move their whole force a little bit closer because it looks like to them that they've got an advantage. Guns. Your gun is not firing back. So they're just going to kind of push forward a little bit, come forward another 100 yards or so, and open back up.
So what distance are they at now?
They are just about 1,000 yards away.
How many guns have they got? Have we figured that out?
They've got 3 guns.
Okay.
Well, we could always fire. I could take the men who are, well behind, head to the south and directly east to put a pressure on their flank. They're putting pressure on us. We can, if they've got a regiment of infantry, it'll at least make them have to select a target with their guns or perhaps move their men a little bit closer.
I mean, at this range of 6-pound balls and we're in a fort, I think it's better. I don't want you out there in case you get cut off because I won't be able to support you. Like, those balls aren't going to be doing anything.
It's still a really long way. You are right.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1,000 yards with 6-pounders. Like, they might as well be spitting at us. And at that moment, a ball comes and, like, fucking blows my head off.
We'll see, yeah. Again, in order to like, do any kind of damage at all, they have to roll at least a 6.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tough.
We will continue to hold fire.
Okay. So they're going to do another volley here, and then they're going to get a bonus die because they're somewhat dialed in kind of the range at this point. So they do, actually. They score a hit against the gun. So again, it's just barely a success, which means that you can sort of shift some things around and sort of, you can absorb this in sort of a narrative way, right? So it doesn't have to mean it's a direct hit against the gun. It doesn't mean it dismounts it. This might mean maybe you've lost some men. This might mean maybe you have to clean it. This might mean, it's up to you, though. You have taken 1 point of damage. You can deal with it however you want.
We will, So when you say, like, I have to clean it, as in, like, it's temporarily out of action?
Yeah, like it maybe it knocked over the stack of cannonballs, the little pyramid of cannonballs that are sitting next to the gun, something like that, where it's
hit the walls. It threw a bunch of crap in front of the gun fort, so we're gonna work on clearing that. We're out of action.
Yeah, maybe like a sort of it hit one of the timbers of the adobe frame that you're kind of around. It kind of went plop down on top of the embrasure. So yeah, it's just
your men are working and it's hot. They could take their clothes off and use them as pretend bodies.
I will say, so this detachment, they are going to have to spend a couple points of what do you call it, stamina in order to actually deal with this. So maybe they should take their shirts off a little bit.
They will. Cash is really invested in my men getting shirtless and sweaty. Anyway.
All right. I just put a mark that said they scored 1 hit from that bombardment. And they're going to, they've seen that they've done some damage here, so they're going to actually try this again.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
All right. So this time, they give another sort of ragged kind of artillery volley, and it looks like their guns are so hot that one of the rammers is they haven't sponged it out properly in between. So one of them actually kind of rams a barrel of, a bag of prepared powder down one of the guns, and it blows in the guy's hands. So
that's bad.
One of the guns is actually, this is not your guys, this is the enemy, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so their northernmost gun for now is out of commission, mostly because they've lost 2 of their crewmen. The rammer and the sponger up front are now badly wounded and are being dragged back to the point. So they are actually going to lose that extra point of efficiency that I've been giving them because they have suffered some losses in their crew. So I'm going to put a point of damage on them.
I got it, yeah.
The guy at the Dearborn Arsenal who had both his hands blown off firing a salute to memorialize Abraham Lincoln when he died in 1865.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just had 2 hooks.
Yeah.
And he wore his uniform to the opening day of school every year until like the 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
And his uniform was just in tatters, and I could never tell if it was old or if because he was trying to dress himself with hooks. Just shredding his clothes. And I guarantee you, Henry Ford would have known like Hook Hands McGuire because he was a small boy.
Yeah.
And a guy with 2 hooks for hands showed up at his school every year.
All right. I'm going to do one more roll for artillery bombardment. Okay. So again, they're kind of drilling it back down. They're still keeping up their fire and they're still going. However, you hear Confederate bugle calls coming up, and they decided they're going to push their luck and see what they can do with an infantry assault. So you see, slowly coming forward, they're playing fucking Dixie, of course. As they're advancing, from the land of traitors, rattlesnakes, and alligators. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. So they're advancing. So feel free to tell your men to open up at whatever range they would open up, and I'll just put the markers there.
The gun's going to open up like 10 yards past the special reserve. The carbines are not anywhere near in range. It's all the infantry rifles.
So you're going to wait until they get to Cash Regis' special reserve to fire your gun?
See if they do anything with the special reserve.
All right.
Well,
maybe they'll start drinking.
It might give some guys incentive to not push past it.
Sure. Yeah, so they're coming up. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep advancing until they are fired upon. So they actually do get up to Cash Regis' special reserve, and I'm going to see what the regimental commanders of these little things decide to do about that.
Maybe
they'll start executing their own men to keep them from getting them the liquor.
Oh, God! Okay, so Cash Regis' special reserve, fucking spectacularly successful. So you rolled a 5, they rolled a fucking 0. So they do whatever you want them to do with Cash Regis' special reserve. So that basically the southern regiment has stumbled into it. So they are right over here right now. doing just engaging with that. So, but you have 5 points above them, so you get to determine essentially whatever they're doing. The absolute perfect world exists right now. So describe it for us.
Oh, Richard.
Well, I have to imagine that there is absolute chaos among the ranks as they discover they have a teetotaler of an officer who has not allowed them anything to drink
Yeah.
for like months. And they're in a dry county in Texas. This was not even intended for this area because it's on the stagecoach stop. So these men immediately start drinking left and right, and all order goes out the window. It might be bad enough that the teetotaling captain, threatens to just start pistol whipping, or he's going to maybe summarily execute someone if he cannot regain order. That these men have no interest in continuing the assault because there's delicious liquor. And not only is it delicious liquor, a couple of them recognize Cash Regis. This must be good.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say they have taken 3 points of damage to their cohesion. So their unit is, like, pretty much done for right now until their officers can restore order. So, like, basically every single turn, their officer is going to try to bring them back in some way if they can. But they have collapsed into disorder.
And the hootenanny that is ongoing?
Yeah. They have... at some point, I'll get better at drawing arrows. Because those look awful. But whatever. It was their first movement. So, yeah, they are basically, collapsed. They're collapsed into disorder.
They're like 300 yards, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think this is the time to pour it on them. I think you can shout down that my plan worked, and my boys can run out and, make an appearance. That alone might be enough to send them running.
Okay. All right. So I would say, Kircher, give me. This is going to be rolling your cannon. So this is a five skill detachment +2, and I'm going to give you a +2 at the end of that. So basically, it's roll 5 space 2. Space +3. I'm going to give you 3 extra die because they are so close. And you're firing grape shot into them. So yeah, give me an artillery roll, and in the meantime, Kircher, give me a maneuver check to get your men out. And I would say either maneuver or cohesion. Depends on kind of how you want to do it. You said you want to move really, really quick. So I can say either maneuver or cohesion. If you're moving very quickly, the more difficult one might be to try to keep them together, and because your men are very highly motivated, as you have said, so they might just try to bayonet rush these guys as soon as they see them, which could end up being bad.
So you said roll 5 +2?
Yes. Well, it's 5. You've got a pool of 5 and a skill of 2 for the detachment, and then you've got a +3 extra die. So it's 5 space 2 space +3. On the app.
Let's see how the cannon roll goes, and then I don't think you do the pluses.
Yeah, you only do the plus on the third number, and there's a space between roll and 5.
Like that?
This is just an example, so this is not the actual score you're going to take.
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
Roll. Okay, yeah, then I got it right. Okay, here goes. 7 successes.
Sweet. Okay, yeah, with 7 successes, are you aiming at the guys going for Cash Regis' special reserve?
Or anyone who's still in good order.
Okay, all right, so yeah, if you are targeting the other regiment then, not him, so these guys are actually going to, again, you fucking unleash into them. They rolled a 5. Let's see how their officer handles that, because that's pretty bad. Or you rolled a 7.
I rolled a total of 8, I believe, right? No, 7. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, 7. Yeah. Okay, they rolled 3 successes. They are not in good shape. So I'm going to say they're going to take an immediate 2 damage from the artillery onto their cohesion. So they are losing order pretty quickly. Yeah, is there anything else? You can specify a couple of additional advantages because you you did a lot of damage immediately to them from that very first volley. You could even say something like maybe their officer got killed.
I'd be very lucky if we did, but I think it'd be more reasonable if it was just, I want them to be, because they're militia, they probably haven't actually been in like under fire from artillery. They've been fighting Indians for years.
Yeah.
So it's very different. So they're halted and disordered, and they're not going to respond to whatever Regis is meant.
Yeah. So basically, like they take an absolute shattering on this first couple of shots from your artillery, and your men are just like moving super quick, right? They've probably fired 3 or 4 shots within the first minute or so, like moving real fast. And it's easy because it's grape shot, so the gun doesn't even fucking recoil. You just pour it, more canister into them each shot. So basically, all of their men just take, they throw themselves to the ground, take whatever cover they can, and they're returning sort of a paltry fire up to the men on the walls. So basically, you've turned this entire regiment into a regiment of sharpshooters. They're just sitting there in the brush as much as they can, taking individual aim and individual shots. So, Regis, this is your cohesion roll to get your men out in good order. So you're saying you want to move north around the fort and kind of come
south. I'd like to move, swing south into kind of looking directly south as we wheel under the men having the hootenanny.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So you want to move them basically right here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Give me a roll. I'm gonna say to get there you're gonna want at least 6 successes or so to get this done pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I would like to. Is this where I can wager morale and spend stamina?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I would like to. Yeah, I'd like to spend, let's say 3 points of stamina, because this seems pretty important.
Okay, so you're automatically going to lose 2 because the movement itself is strenuous. So if you're spending an additional 3, you'll get down to 5 stamina by the end of this movement. So I just want you to understand that.
Yeah, I think that is still acceptable to use half-play stamina. I think this will break them pretty bad when we pop out there. Enough so that I would also like to risk, like, let's say 4 points of morale.
Okay.
And we'll go with maybe my skill. I'd like to shout at them like, boys, it'll work. They're having a hootenanny with their pants down. We caught them. And like my personal magnetism of just like, we're going to do it.
Okay.
So all of that together.
So that is you're rolling the unit's cohesion. You can also remember to modify.
Yep. So
you can modify this. Yeah, you can modify this by adding manpower to your cohesion. By the way, if you want more, but you are also rolling a whole lot of dice. So,
we'll even add 1 manpower.
Okay.
Which I'm looking for here. So we're down. So I take that down 1.
Yep. Add that straight to your cohesion.
All right, so we're rolling 5 plus I put in the 3 points of stamina.
Well, no. So first it's the skill. So the second slot is your skill. So what you're using your leadership
personal
skill,
magnetism.
Personal magnetism. So that's whatever skill level that is.
Okay.
And then space. So you're doing. I don't know if you can separate this. So I would basically just you're wagering 3 stamina and 4 morale, correct? So that's a +7. So the third number is +7.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
6
and
successes.
you nailed it with a 6. So that's what you needed in order to get there. So your men, form up their column real quick, right? And they're like, "Let's get them, boys!" And they start, running as a column, like all the way over. And they get parked perfectly, 200 yards to the south of these men who are clubbing their own Confederate officers with the butts of their guns as they're trying to get at these tins of horrible rum that you've left out in the middle of the field. And your men order themselves up. So let me just sort of report this movement here. they get there, and your men are right there, formed on up. Okay. So yeah, you are now assembled. So now you get to roll offense. You don't get, you're not going to get any additional modifiers or anything like that. You're just going to roll your offense, and you've lost the stamina. So now you're down in an increment where you're actually going to have a pressure of 1. So you just want to basically, it's just going to be a little bit harder for you to do a lot of damage. That's all. So you want to roll at least 5. And higher if possible. But you didn't lose your morale. So, you're all good. So this would also, you can use your marksman skill with this. And I'm also going to give you a +2 because you're in very close range and you've got very accurate rifles. So that's going to be a +2 additional die at the end.
All right. Got that plugged in.
Oh,
Wasn't
no.
great.
So now he can spend a point of power to mess with us, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time getting in here. So, what is the best way to spend this power to make this a more effective volley?
So you can spend a point of power to reverse any of the failures into successes, or you can just get a flat +2 on whatever your roll is. So, I mean, you're going to do damage to these guys regardless. So if you use point of power now just to get it to +2, 3 points is going to do enough to hurt them pretty badly because they cannot protect themselves. They can't roll against you. So they're effectively operating at 0 right now. So it'll be enough to batter them pretty good, and they're going to take that loss directly in their manpower. So, their cohesion is gone.
I think we'll do that. So
Okay.
just add it 2. I took my power down 1, and I assume that's the equivalent of me screaming, "Pour it on them, boys!"
Basically, yes. Yep. So they're going to take
So much so, it hurt my throat a little bit.
Okay. All right. So you've done enough to basically, you have killed this regiment for all intents and purposes. This was just murder. I mean, there's nothing that they could have done to protect themselves. They didn't even see you. They're even obscuring the other regiment that's in good order, so they couldn't even wheel around to protect them. And you're so close to them that their artillery can't even open up on you because they don't want to hit their own men. However, you've turned that into just a crowd of screaming, dying, fleeing men.
Drinking?
So, sorry?
Drinking?
Yes,
Probably not
of course.
anymore.
Not so
Screaming,
much,
flying,
no.
drinking men.
Yeah, but they are basically making a precipitous retreat backward. So yeah, they are just gone. Moving away. So they're running as fast as they possibly can. And you still have, again, an infantry regiment in good order. Their artillery can't target you right now because they should be up here. Whoops. Because there's a pile of fleeing Confederates in between you and them. And they will remain there for at least this round. So next round they might be able to. But you're still a good 1,000 yards away from their artillery. So, it's whatever. Okay. So that's that. They are, the 2nd Confederate Regiment is going to try to move now and reform to face you guys and also sort of retreat in good order, which is really difficult to do. So they're gonna try as hard as they possibly can, and they're actually gonna put all of their putting all of their extra manpower into this this cohesion roll that they're gonna try to make right now. So they are rolling at a 6. Their regimental commander is pretty good at a 2. So let's see. They did 5. So that's okay. So they managed to actually do a somewhat complicated maneuver of sort of turning their facing so that you're not going to hit them in the flank as you come up, and retreating 100 yards or so back that way. However, they're still blocking their own artillery. So unless they decide to hitch up their artillery and move, they can't target you. So I'm going to see what their commander is going to do about that. All right. He decides he's just going to leave it there. He's going to hopefully that this mess clears and their men will sort of get out of the way. So, men on the walls, artillery. It's up to you.
As long as we have clear shots, we're going to continue firing.
Okay.
The men in good order there.
Yes, at them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to remove this guy because
They're done.
they're done. They're dots. They're obstacles. They're not. It's not actually a cohesive body of men in any respect. These are just. It's a crowd. There on the map. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and roll your attack. So you're going to get a +2 extra die at the end because you're still close enough that you can use canister or grape.
So did I type that correctly? Roll 5, 2.
Yep. Yeah. Roll 5, 2, and then you add a +2. Yep. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. With a 5, they take another. They're gonna take another point of damage here. And they're gonna take it in their. What have they lost so far? 3. They're also not looking in very good shape at all. So yeah, this might be a really good time for Cash Regis to maybe make a. I mean, that's a pretty far away, so it would be probably another maneuver check just to kind of walk up. And the closer you sort of advance this way, right, the less their artillery is ever going to be able to do anything to you because they're still in their men are still in the way, right? So if you're moving straight up north, you'll be able to basically use their retreating men and their living men as a shield against their artillery. Yeah.
That is exactly what I'd like to do.
Okay.
And yeah, we are pretty proud to do that. So, is this a maneuver check then?
Yeah, I would say maneuver check. Yeah, you're sort of opened up in the field. You want to kind of get you're going to overrun the mess of bodies there in the middle at Cash Regis' Special Reserve. Reclaim those tubs of rum as you go.
Well, I think they're all long gone in like the shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to figure out something to add to this because I got pretty lousy maneuver.
Okay.
This would be a really good time, Colonel Twig, if you have any men on horseback to send them out.
We never really were set up, I don't think, because those guys who were tired, you're way out there. I think it might. If I see this going on, I'm not going to commit extra guys to it because if they just leave, that's fine. Them leaving is still winning for us.
Yeah.
Because our army shows up. As long as you don't get caught in the open and get shot to pieces.
So I will say that if you want to, if you roll a cohesion check at 5 or more, you can form up your men pretty quickly, and mount them and get them out. You'd leave the walls undefended except for the artillery, but you will be able to actually get out and use your men as cavalry if you want to.
No, we're going to stay because the only detachment that would do that, unless we take guys off the gun, we only have the really tired guys. So.
Okay. All right. Alrighty, but yeah, maneuver check, I would say this is fairly simple, so I think the difficulty of this roll is only going to be 3. So you only need 3 successes because you're marching in a straight line, right? The biggest obstacle is actually the pile of Confederate bodies that you just created directly to your front. That's really the only obstacle.
Well, I think I'll do that, and I will risk another 4 morale that worked last time pretty well. My guys are in high spirits.
Okay. Yeah.
Roll 2, and then the second. So if I don't have a modifier, like a personal modifier.
Yeah. I mean, your leadership is going to count toward pretty much anything that you're doing on the battlefield. So if you just have something that's basically like, I mean, you could say personal magnetism if you are just walking out in front of them and basically daring them to keep up. That I would say that's personal magnetism. So I would be able to.
Well, I think I'm going to use that as my all-in. Like we're just doing it.
Okay.
Same difference though.
Yeah.
So,
Be a legend.
added that extra morale. Let's see how we did. Not great.
Oh,
Yeah, that isn't great.
maybe it's time to come back. Gosh.
Yeah, your men they're nervous. They don't want to go. So you're not going to take any damage or anything because, but they are reforming. Some of them are sitting there like, "Well, sir, I gotta reload my gun," and so like they're all kind of hunkered and taking cover because like this is. I mean, some of these guys are veterans from Glorieta Pass, but that was also a long time ago. They are not really used to combat, and like they're probably once they get up to like the literal pile, hundreds of bodies laying out on the field, are a little reticent. So you don't lose any points. You're not going to take any damage or anything like that, but it is going to take you an extra turn to get your men into position. So you just lose this opportunity to break the Confederates if they can. So that's the end of that round. They are going to continue their retreat. These guys also continue running. So they are now they are clear of the artillery. And these guys again are going to withdraw even farther as they go. Back to here. So yeah, about there. So there is it's going to be a difficult shot for their artillery, but it is clear enough that they're going to attempt it. So their artillery is actually going to attempt to fire at Cash Regis's infantry as they go right now. But they're going to get a negative modifier because it's tough and they're trying not to hit their own men. So oh Lord.
Bump, bump.
All right. Well, they rolled a 1. So either they refuse to fire because they're afraid of hitting their own men, or one of their guns bursts. That's up to you, though.
You're the man in the field, Cash.
I mean, they probably are not top of the line pieces back here in Texas, so
Right.
I like to imagine one burst.
Okay. I'm going to roll.
Even if it wasn't a catastrophic burst, it's that nice like split down the seam where and like
Yeah. So I rolled. I rolled. This was basically just like how much damage the bursting gun is going to do. I rolled a 0, so it actually does nothing. The gun just like it splits that seam right up at the top, right, and it just kind of opens up, and the ball sort of rolls out the end. But all it gets is bent straight up, and so like all the men are like ah, and they look around. And there's like everybody's like checking themselves for holes, and everybody's fine. They just can't hear anything out of this side of the face, right? And they're just like, "Carl, you okay? What?" But they lose that round because their gun burst, and they again are going to sort of reform it. So back to again top of the round. So walls, men on the walls, you've got a chance now, again to shoot.
We'll continue to fire.
Okay.
Well, now we're shooting at the artillery. Oh, is that infantry still a target, or did they get out of here?
The clump of infantry is gone. The well-formed cohesive infantry that's still pretty badly wounded is still in the game, and they are obviously still in range. They're about 800 yards away. Not an impossible shot by any means.
So probably not grape anymore, but we're fireball.
Yeah. So you're rolling. 5. Yeah, you're rolling 5 because that's the offense rating of the artillery. And then any skill that you can add to it is yours, but you get no bonus die because you're no longer in canister range.
All right, so on 5 dice we got 4 successes.
Okay, that's enough to give them a hit, and I'm just gonna roll. This is just a straight up leadership check for this officer, and if he fails it, they're gonna run. Oh, hey, look at that! So they absorb it again. He takes the loss in manpower, so their cohesion stays up. But he's lost a lot of men, so that's another artillery hit. But they're going to stay formed up. But because they've taken damage, they also are they're not moving. Their men again have thrown themselves to the ground, and they are staying there. They're not listening to you. Like you through the spyglass, you're looking right. You can see the officer like waving his sword around and trying to get him up and everything, and they are just down and covered, huddled behind their rifles, just waiting for anybody to kind of advance up. So, Colonel Regis.
I'm sorry.
Well, I am torn between just heading back in the fort and letting them leave, because I really doubt they're going to try anything again, or running them down. My men aren't particularly fast. We're not really designed for this.
Mm-hmm.
Colonel Twiggs, what do you think of your cavalry forces?
I don't think I'm not confident in our chances to pursue. Also, we can't talk to each other because we're like 600 yards apart.
Yeah.
That's also true.
But you don't see the coming out. We're just still firing the gun.
Well, I guess we'll move forward. Perhaps just our bravery will be enough. I see those cannon shots are having a delirious effect on just the general shape of those men and that cannon hissing. So, yeah, we will move straight north. Again, try and getting between them and the one or two remaining artillery pieces and their last bit of infantry. So we just need to navigate the corpse field right ahead of us.
You want to go to about here? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so this is, again, maneuver check. So...
could I move? I'd rather move slowly and do a cohesion check. Make sure we just stay together in the corpses.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
If it takes
Yeah,
a bit
you're
longer,
also
I just
like
don't do well on going fast.
Yeah. Okay.
So we will do that, and we'll try my personal magnetism once more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Space there.
Okay, that's much better. Yeah. So yeah, your men this time, you say something mean about Confederates or whatever, right? And they're actually able to move through the corpse field. And you are close enough, if you'd like, to take a kind of a long-range shot at their remaining infantry.
I think we will try that.
Okay.
Let everyone know to take their time. We don't need to blow through shots here, but one good volley will send them running. So we'll take our offense and marksmanship here. Tell everyone to aim small, miss small.
Right.
Whatever that means. Well, 2 out of 4 ain't bad. Not great.
No. So that you're rolling your offense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. And you added your marksman skill. I assume that's what that was. All right. So with a 2, again, the bullets just sort of hiss over their heads, and they're not really doing much. If you spend a point of power, that'll be a 4. And that'll probably be enough to scatter them. But it's up to you.
So how do I regain power?
Resting.
Third of being powerless. I still have 1 left. So, I'll tell the men, all right, we've got 1 more shot at this. Aim small, miss small.
Got it.
Readjust down. Take a notch down on the ladder.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, they're all like, oh, we were using short range, not mid range. So they flip the middle toggle up right on the like.
We were firing at quite close rather than some distance.
Right. So they reload and fire again, and that is enough between the artillery damage they've taken and the morale hit that they've had, say Regis volley, that is enough again that they, let's say, maneuver precipitously from the battlefield. That is the end. And as they're running past the artillery emplacement, you see that they're hitching their caissons up to the guns, and they're hitching that to a team of horses, and they are dragging them away. So the whole force is leaving the battlefield, and for now, you've protected the fort. So that was about a day's battle too. That whole thing probably took 4 or 5 hours. So it's early evening. A bunch of your men are obviously still very tired. Your men in particular are actually quite tired because of their run across the battlefield and everything. But otherwise, that is that. You have successfully, this is August 29th. This is just the day right after the last one. So you've got the action of August 28th and now the action of August 29th. You have successfully defended the fort.
So the Battle of Fort Leland Stanford.
Yep.
The map has a very National Park Service look to it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm going for, right? And I hope that, like, as I practice more, I'll get better at drawing the arrows so they look better and cleaner. But I honestly really like this setup. I think it's actually pretty neat. And yeah, so I marked, basically I put X's anytime any unit took damage. And I try to keep a decent record just right there on the paper that we can look at because, I think it's kind of neat. But otherwise, I'll bring it back. Yeah. So what'd you think of that? That seemed, we were moving pretty quick there at the end, which I liked, and that's
pretty smooth. Like,
yeah.
had the whole. I'm looking at this from your objective as the same thing as for any quest. Like, combat is not about killing the guy and taking his experience points. It's about, like, the objective of combat is to do this. So your attack roll is to force them back, make them halt, cause whatever. You pick what you're trying to do. And that's still what it felt like. Like, okay, the gun is here to make them stop.
Yeah.
The infantry is to make them go away. Like, that's.
And I said this last time too, to Kircher especially, but I think when we're like making characters, right, is like the whole idea is I want to encourage stuff like Cash Regis's special blend, right? Because like we've all read a lot of military history. Like this kind of shit happens all the time. It's like random stuff or tricks or anything that you can try to use to get a weird advantage. Like I don't want a system where you can't do that, where you feel like you can't give it an attempt, right? And like
I think
the fact that I rolled a fucking 0 when it was like, let's see a leadership check to see if they can ignore the booze, and they didn't. They fucking biffed it. It's like, I couldn't ask for a better representation of that, honestly. That was really funny.
The Apocrypha are made up or what, but there's that whole thing at Shiloh where the Confederates overran the camps and they're like, oh shit, they made breakfast for us.
Yeah. And this kind of stuff happens all the time. People will break into a still or something like that. Like I was just reading about Sherman's march and through when they marched up from Georgia to I think like South Carolina or something like that. They're whatever city burned down. I can't remember which one. Like the whole city fucking burned down because like there was a cotton warehouse that caught fire at some point and like the whole city burned. But basically, like for like 10 minutes, like some of Sherman's men were like trying to fight the fire, and then the rest of the army broke into a still and got drunk, and like, and they're like, "Save the booze!"
Their lesson about building buildings out of cotton.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that went really well. I thought that looked good. I think the video is going to look pretty good too. So yeah, I'll mark up the sort of results of the battle and everything, and then we'll do some rest rolls. We can also do like some resting rolls just straight up on the Discord, especially now that we have like the rolling bot.
It's in between.
Yeah, so like we'll just say like in between next game, I'll put a thing in the in character and just say like each of you have to roll a rest roll, see if you can recover any of those points, and then you can roll it in the thing and let me know what your successes are. And then we'll see. But for now, for narrative purposes, we'll basically say like this is a pretty small group of Confederate infantry, and you beat them pretty badly, so they do not come back. So you're going to have like 2 or 3 days basically of straight up rest. But early the next morning, your detachment comes back at the head of like basically like 800 Kiowa warriors who are all coming in, like waving lances and firing guns in the air and everything like that. And they're actually disappointed to find out that they've come to a battlefield that has already been, like the victory has already been won. They're like, we fucking rode our horses here for nothing. But so their sort of officer, the Kiowa Cavalry Regiment's officer, comes up to you, and this is quite a young guy. He's actually wearing elbow-length silk gloves that he's gotten from somewhere else, and otherwise he is shirtless, just with a pair of suspenders and like Union cavalry trousers, but otherwise is shirtless, and is wearing just like a cowboy hat, but with the silk gloves. And he speaks English, and he introduces himself as Kiowa Man, who is the nominative leader of this cavalry regiment, as it were, as he comes up. So he tells you that he and his men are happy to kind of take over the scouting and spotting duties for the next couple of days, and your men are able to rest. So
much appreciated.
Yep. So while you wait for basically the entire rest of the division to arrive here, your men have very little to do but rest. So over the course of the next day or so, the first kind of quick moving infantry regiments from your brigade are going to show up. The rest of the irregulars, and then you're going to have basically the rest of the division is going to filter in over the next week or so. But you're probably going to be sitting here for the next several days at the very least, so you're going to have some time to rest.
All right.
But yeah, so that is the situation. So we'll kind of start up doing some other stuff next time, and then in between we'll roll some rests and whatnot right on the Discord channel.
Solid.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was nice seeing you, gents. I got a couple emails and calls to make that I'm a little late on now, but that's okay because that was fun.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll see you next time.
Talk to you guys later.
Guys.
Yep.